Welcome back to the Vaginoplasty video series. In this installment, we're going to be talking about dilation. If you missed our last videos, go ahead and check them out in the description. Otherwise, let's get started. Number 53. As stated all the way back in number 2, dilation is a process by which you hold your vaginal canal open using what's called a dilator. Dilators are essentially long, medical-grade, rounded cylinders of varying diameters. Here are the ones that I was given. They range in size from 1.125 inches to 1.5 inches in diameter. They're also opaque and colored, but your surgeon might give you clear ones instead. You should be given at least 4 of them. Then, starting with the smallest dilator, you will begin dilating multiple times per day, and you will get to dilate less frequently as time goes on as you size up to the larger dilators. Every surgeon is a little bit different in their timetable as to when you size up. When you dilate, you will be inserting the dilator to maximum depth and leaving it there for a certain amount of time. Again, every surgeon is a little bit different in their recommendations for how long each dilation session should last. Number 54, you need to dilate. Seriously, if you get penile and virgin vaginoplasty, you need to dilate during the healing process so you don't get complications like vaginal stenosis, which is the narrowing and shortening of the vagina. Just like a piercing, your vagina does need to have something in it to keep it open, although it doesn't need to have something in it 24/7. You also need to continue dilating after the healing process to maintain that depth and that diameter. Take it from someone who stopped dilating for about a year, you lose depth and you lose diameter, and it's really hard to gain it back. To be clear, you don't necessarily need depth to have a good time, and your worth as a vagina haver is not necessarily determined by the depth of said vagina. But that being said, having depth does give you more options, especially when it comes to sex and pleasure, and for some people, it can be important on a psychological level to have that depth. For penile and virgin vaginoplasty, I recommend always continuing to practice dilation, never skipping more than 1 dilation in a row, and just trying not to skip dilations in general. If you plan to ignore this advice, I recommend keeping your surgeon in the loop regarding any decision as to your cessation of dilation, just to make sure that it won't lead to any unforeseen consequences. Continuing to dilate always means taking far fewer risks than ceasing to dilate. Number 55. I see a lot of people who seem to view dilation as a burden or even as something embarrassing. If that's you, take this into consideration. Dilation is actually really hot. Think about it. You have to be penetrated at least once a day out of medical necessity, and someone can volunteer to do it for you if you're indisposed. For the sake of keeping your vagina open. The fanfic practically writes itself. Number 56. Let's talk about the kind of pain that is okay and the kind that isn't. You will almost certainly experience some tenderness during your first few dilations, but this shouldn't persist for longer than a few months, and it should only really be happening during the dilation itself. When sizing up your dilator, you might notice some pain in the form of tightness and stretching, which then might turn into soreness. In my experience, this doesn't really last longer than about half an hour after the dilation ends. You will likely experience this similar type of sensation for the next dilation and the dilation after that, but after a couple of weeks, there should be no more pain. If you experience ongoing pain or any symptoms of an infection, please let your doctor know. Number 57. As stated previously, when you increase the size of your dilator, your surgeon will likely allow you to dilate less frequently. For me, I was told to dilate 3 times a day on the smallest dilator, 2 times a day with the next size up, once a day with the next size after that, and then 3 to 5 times a week using the largest dilator. I have been on the largest dilator for a couple of years now, and even though I can just do it 3 to 5 times a week, I still dilate every day because it is easier for me to remember to do something daily than it is to do every other day, for instance. Personally, I've made dilation a part of my bedtime routine. I know that before bed, I need to brush my teeth, take my pills, and dilate. Dilation for me is now a way of relaxing at the end of a long day. So I'll pull out my phone and watch YouTube for 10 minutes, watch Netflix for 10 minutes, pull out my vibrator, watch Hulu for 10 minutes, or watch HBO Max for 10 minutes. Dilation, regardless of the amount of time it actually takes up physically in my day, means more to me than just what it actually does to my vagina. Number 58. By the time you're on the largest dilator, missing a day every now and then probably isn't enough to make your vagina close up forever. I say this as someone who misses a day every now and then myself. Do try to keep up though. Number 59. Your first dilation will take place on the day that your packing is removed. Ideally, your surgeon will show you how to dilate in the exam room, and then you can use what you learned later on in the day when you dilate on your own. Your surgeon will likely recommend a specific type of lube, usually a water-based lube, and they might even give you some to take home, but don't bank on that. If you don't know what exact type of lube your surgeon recommends, it's a good idea to ask for it in advance so you can stock up. Number 60. Because the nerves in your vaginal canal will not have fully reconnected at this point, it might be difficult to know that you're at the end of your vagina because you won't actually really be able to feel it. Though it is important to know when you're at the end of your vagina because, again, you will have to dilate to maximum depth. What's important to know first is that you should be inserting the dilator slowly and gently so you don't damage anything within your first few months of healing. Secondly, there are also some ways that you can know that you're at the end without actually being able to feel it. For instance, if you're inserting the dilator and suddenly notice an increase in resistance, that's probably a sign that you're at the end. And if you do notice that, do not push it anymore. You can also use the dots in your dilator to measure how deep you're going. On this set of dilators, the first dot represents a depth of 3.5 inches, and all the dots after that are spaced by half an inch, all the way up to 5.5 inches. So, if you know how deep your vagina is, which is something your surgeon should tell you, you will be able to check how far in the dilator was by comparing the dots to the wavy line of lube that happens after you remove your dilator. Number 61. Getting the dilator to full depth can take a little bit of time. When I was less experienced, it took me about a minute or two. Now it only takes me about 15 seconds. I will now detail a little list of all the different techniques you could potentially use to make this go a little bit quicker and easier. Starting off our list with the only method we recommend for those who are still healing, the pre-lubrication method. Try looping up one of your fingers and sticking it in order to get more lube into more of your vagina all at once. Then insert your pre-lubed dilator. If you don't want to get lube all over your finger, you can also use these lube shooters, which are really cheap, especially when you can write them off as a business expense by including them in this video. Next up, the poking method. Get a bunch of lube on the tip of your dilator and start just poking it in there. Doing this will allow more lube to get distributed as the dilator goes deeper and deeper. This is definitely only a method you should use when you're fully healed. Lastly, the vibration method. Try holding a powerful vibrator against the base of your dilator, provided that your dilator is not made out of glass. This will help reduce the resistance that your vaginal walls exert on the dilator by relaxing your pelvic floor, while also being loud enough to let your roommates know you're using a vibrator, saving you the trouble of announcing it yourself. You might even be able to find a set of vibrating dilators at your local sex shop. Again, this is only really recommended for those who are fully healed. Number 62. Depending on the instructions that your surgeon gives you, your dilation sessions can last anywhere from 10 minutes to upwards of 30. Holding the dilator into maximum depth for this entire session can prove challenging. The seemingly obvious method of just holding it in with your hand is thwarted by the angle you have to hold it at, and your hand is sure to get tired after just a couple of minutes. For me personally, I've always just bent one of my knees and held the base of the dilator in with my calf, but some people find this to be a bit painful. If you have a method of holding your dilator in that doesn't involve the use of your calf, you can let us know down in the comments. Number 63. It's a good idea to have a towel underneath your hips while you dilate. This will help prevent lube and other fluids from getting onto your sheets. Number 64. After each dilation session, you will need to wash your dilator. It'll definitely have a lot of lube on it, as well as discharge and whatever else might have been in your vagina at the time. I recommend wiping off the excess with a wet wipe or a tissue, and then washing the dilator with soap and water. Once the soap and water have been rinsed off, I recommend folding up a paper towel and standing the dilator up on it so that it can air dry. Number 65. The bleeding associated with vaginoplasty is of course mostly soaked up by the packing, and there will still be a considerable amount of blood even 1 week after the packing is removed, but this bleeding will take a long time to fully dwindle down. As your bleeding subsides, you will be spotting a little bit, and more relevantly to this section, you will probably notice some blood on your dilator after you pull it out. If you notice an increase in the amount of blood when you pull out your dilator, please tell your surgeon. Number 66. There is mixed advice that you might see from surgeons regarding whether or not you can substitute penetrative sex for dilation. Obviously, they're not the same thing. With dilation, you leave the penetrating object inside for the whole time, motionless at full depth, and with penetrative sex, you generally don't. But there are surgeons who do recommend it, and there are also surgeons who just recommend continuing to dilate for the entire time, regardless of your sexual activity. Either way, the main conclusion seems to be that the first year of dilation is the most important, and you cannot substitute penetrative sex for dilation within the first year. If you're unsure about your surgeon's stance on this, you should ask. Number 67. After your first year of dilation, once you've made your way through every size of dilator, you can instead use a silicone or glass dildo as a dilator, provided that it is both long and girthy enough to get the job done and is at least as hard as the dilators that your surgeon gave you. If your dilator is broken or lost and you don't want to use a dildo as the dilator, you can get a new set of dilators at your local sex shop or online. This concludes the dilation portion of our vaginoplasty video series, numbers 53 through 67. In the next video, we'll be talking about sex and pleasure. Hope to see you then.